Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Sandy Pirog, Bolton's first selectman, and I'm joined today by Gwen Marion, chair of the Bolton Charter Revision Commission, and John Toomey, who is a member of the Charter Revision Commission. And we're here today to bring you a little more information about the charter questions that are on the ballot in Bolton on the November 2nd election. Our Charter Revision Commission was appointed by the Board of Selectmen about 18 months ago. It's made up of 7 individuals, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about the demographics of the group. We have 3 graduates of Bolton High School, 3 former town political chairs, both Republican and Democrat, 1 former Board of Selectmen member, 2 former Board of Finance members, a planning and zoning member, 3 attorneys, 3 local business owners, and 2 members without any political or business connections. It's quite the group. What I'm going to do today is read for you the questions, and you'll also see them briefly on the screen behind me. And then I'm going to ask the members of the Charter Commission to speak a little bit about that. But first, Gwen, you want to fill us in a little bit on your process and what happened?
We were appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and it was a very lively group. We worked very hard for 18 months. And one thing I want to emphasize is that this is not a political document at all. It is election season, and it's easy to think that this is being proposed during the municipal election because there is a political push behind it. But there really is not. It's not a Democratic document. It's not a Republican document. And during the conversations that the board had, there were some times where there were Democrats who were allied together, and Republicans who were allied together, but sometimes Democrats and Republicans agreed, sometimes they didn't agree. So you cannot say that there's any kind of a political fingerprint on this document. And I just urge everyone to please read the ballot questions through, because there's a lot to them and they require a lot of forethought. You're not going to be able to go into the ballot booth and vote in just a minute or two like we have been in the past. It'll take a little bit of work, so I just hope you do your homework.
Thanks, Gwen. The homework, the questions in an explanatory document are available on the town's website. If you don't have a computer, they're also available at the Senior Center, the town clerk's office, and Bentley Library. So please take the effort and reach out and try to get one of those explanatory documents. Moving on to the question. Question number 2. Question number 1, by the way, is the fire department, is about the fire truck, and we covered that in a separate segment. So look for that segment on the CVC On Demand. Question 2. Shall the town form a finance committee composed of 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, 2 members of the Board of Education, and 3 elected members at large, allow the finance committee to assume the role of the capital acquisition, planning, and allocation committee, and you've probably heard that referred to as CAPA, and to increase the Board of Selectmen from 5 to 7 members with staggered 4-year terms, and prohibit members of the Board of Selectmen from serving simultaneously in other elected town offices.
So this question took up a lot of time by the commission, because it was asked. The Board of Selectmen asked us to review this, and it took a lot of time. We had a lot of excellent thought about it. We are not we meaning the commission is not proposing to eliminate the Board of Finance. We are proposing to reconfigure it. 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, 2 members of the Board of Education, and 3 elected members. And the primary reason that the commission wants to put this proposal forward is so that all of the parties who have the most knowledge about the budget process are going to come together on day 1, sit around the same table, talk about the education needs, talk about the town needs, and with these 3 other at-large elected members, get the at-large perspective as well. So it brings together people early on in the process, so there's no everybody's on the same page right from the beginning, and the commission feels that this would streamline the budget process. It would there'd be a better sharing of information among the different groups. So it's not getting rid of the Board of Finance, it's just reconfiguring it. And there, some people were concerned that there's going to be a loss of objectivity, but there are still going to be 3 people who are elected by the voters who will provide that objectivity. And the role of CAPA will be consumed by the Finance Committee, so that would actually eliminate a layer of bureaucracy, as some people like to call it, and increasing the Board of Selectmen from 5 to 7 members. Because 2 members of the Board of Selectmen will be on this Finance Committee, the Commission felt that that's an extra burden that those selectmen will have to work on, so it would increase, share the workload better among the 7.
I'd also just like to point out that by increasing the number of members on the Board of Selectmen, it puts that on the same par for membership as the Board of Education and the Board of Finance, and the staggered 4-year terms also will match the Board of Education and the Finance Committee. So thanks for that. Question 3. Shall the town charter be amended to change reduce to revise in the provision relating to a failed budget referendum, thereby permitting either an increase or decrease in the proposed budget?
The current charter uses the word reduce. So anytime a budget fails, the Board of Finance is required to reduce the amount of the budget. So the next referendum will be, the people will be voting on a lower budget. The Commission felt that this was not a neutral term, and the Commission felt that this charter should be drafted with neutral language, and there shouldn't be a point of view that's embedded in it. And they felt that by equating a no vote with a reduction in the budget is not a neutral position.
John, did you have anything to add?
We believe that the word revise does include the definition of reduce or increase. There's been a couple of times after certain budget referendums where people have said, I voted no because I want to have the budget for the school increased a bit. And this is part of why I've looked at this in that way. The chances of it being increased probably are very, very small. But again, revise is a more neutral term, and we just wanted to offer that option.
Thanks, John. Question 4, and by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but there are 11 questions on the ballot. Question 4, shall the town charter be amended to change the title of administrative officer to town administrator and to change the roles and responsibilities of that position? And that leads also into question 5. Shall the town charter be amended to prohibit the administrative officer or the town administrator, if the change in question 4 is approved, from serving in organizations including but not limited to the Bolton Land Trust, the Bolton Volunteer Fire Department, the Bolton Parent-Teacher Association, Community Voice Channel, or holding any other appointed town positions such as fire chief, emergency services director, fire marshal, or their deputies, which may be conflicting with the responsibilities of the position of the administrative officer or town administrator, as applicable.
So changing the title is not a very difficult concept to understand. The term administrative officer is not widely used in the state of Connecticut. The term town administrator is a commonly used term, and we interviewed the past administrative officer who said that he ran into some difficulties with vendors and with other municipal officials saying, well, who are you exactly? Because he didn't have the title town administrator. So that's why we're just bringing it in line with other towns. The role of the town administrator is set out very well in the job description and the contract that the selectmen have already approved. So what the commission is recommending is just taking that language from the job description and the contract and putting that into the charter. So it's not an expansion of roles, but it is a clarification too of what that person's duties are, who that person reports to, and what kind of oversight the selectmen can provide to that person. Also, there in the current charter provides that to eliminate or to terminate that person, it requires a vote of 4 out of the 5 selectmen, which is a very high standard, and it's unusual. And the commission felt that the termination terms should follow the contract terms. So that 4-person vote would no longer be applicable, and termination would be done according to the person's contract. And about serving on other boards, the commission felt that there are situations in which the town administrator might, for instance, if he or she is functioning on the fire department, that person is in a very emotional situation with colleagues fighting fires, or even on these other boards. You get to know the person very well, you become friends with these people, and we felt that there was a loss, it could be a loss of objectivity and a potential conflict of interest, because the town administrator is also the one who initially has contact with these groups, who accepts budget requests. And so the commission felt that we should just keep that town administrator out of those roles, so that to maintain objectivity.
Thanks, Gwen. John, did you?
Yeah, regarding the administrative officer having problems with private vendors and other groups that interact with the town, we wanted to give that person a little more authority, because we, as a group, decided not to go to a strong first selectman. We chose not to have a town manager form of government either. We want to keep as close as we could. This is just a change in title to make it so that these people can have confidence that they're talking to somebody in authority. And I think they treated the administrative officer as if it was a clerical support person. And we want to make their job a little bit easier and take the stress off of the Board of Selectmen's office.
Okay. Question 6, shall the town charter be amended to change the title of Chief Financial Officer to Director of Finance?
Do you want to take that one,
Oh,
Sandy?
sure,
Yeah.
thanks. This question, the town Chief Financial Officer is not widely used in our neighboring towns. And by changing it to Director of Finance, it will put the title of this position in the same character as our Director of Public Works and our Director of Buildings and Grounds. Moving on to question 7, shall the current thresholds for borrowing and supplemental appropriations in the town charter be lowered so that amounts above 2% of the last total expenditure amount must go to referendum? And we'll get to the definition of total expenditure amount a little later. Gwen?
The commission was unanimous in recommending that the thresholds be lowered, because the commission felt that special town meetings are often attended by few people and often attended by people who have the most interest in a particular subject matter. So by changing the thresholds, it will, right now, special town meeting in Bolton can approve items up to $2.2 million. That's a lot. And we felt that that was too much to be voted on at special town meeting. So the threshold that we're recommending would be 2% of the total expenditure amount, which Sandy will discuss what the definition of that is. And so that will lower the threshold from about 2.2 million to about 460,000, meaning anything over 460,000 will have to go to referendum. And similarly with special appropriations, right now, special town meeting can approve about up to $1.1 million, and that threshold would be dropped to about $360,000. And there's also the factor with a special town meeting, the intimidation factor of a special town meeting. Often you could be sitting next to your neighbor or a colleague who has a vehemently opposed position from yours, and it's really awkward to be raising your hand and in complete opposition to that person. So it provides more anonymity, but also it also provides a much, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. the polls are open, so it offers a better chance for more people to be voting on these high-ticket issues.
And we really wanted to make it so that everyone had an opportunity to vote on the money that's being spent by the town. And we want to make it more inclusive for you.
And that's a good point, John. The polls are normally open from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. So if you can't make the town meeting at the scheduled time, you will have more opportunity to go express your opinion. Question 8, shall the town charter be amended to merge the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Inland Wetlands Commission to make members of that combined board, its alternates, and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals and its alternates appointed positions? I'd just like to point out that at this point, Planning and Zoning is elected, Inland Wetlands is appointed, and Zoning Board of Appeals is elected.
The commission was split on this, but the majority felt that by combining planning and zoning and inland wetlands, it gives applicants an easier way through the land use process in Bolton. They would submit 2 separate applications, but the applications would be heard by the same body and at the same time. So there would be less inconvenience for applicants. And changing the makeup of all these boards to appointed members gives the ability to bring in many more people to serve on these boards, because right now there are more unaffiliated voters than there are either Democrats or Republicans. And historically, the Democratic and Republican town committees have been reluctant to endorse unaffiliated candidates to run for office. So by making all of these positions appointed, then there's a whole pool of unaffiliated voters out there to pick from, and also people who might not want to campaign or might not want to see their name on a ballot might be more willing to serve on these boards.
And again, we really just want to make it more open to everyone. You can all call the Board of Selectmen and say, I want to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'd like to work on planning and zoning or all the other little boards and little commissions that we have in town. They need your help. We really want you to help us keep Bolton a beautiful little place.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Gwen. Question 9, shall the town charter be amended to change how vacancies on appointed boards are filled and the procedure for removal of members of appointed boards?
Right now, alternates on boards are automatically offered a position if there's a vacancy, and the commission felt that those alternates are not necessarily the best person to fill in those positions. So this would eliminate that automatic offer to the alternate, and it would clean up some of the procedures if somebody had to be removed for cause. It defines what cause is. That's I've never seen that happen in town. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that happen in town, but it's good to have some procedures in the charter in case there is a need for those.
All right, question 10. Shall the town charter adopt gender-neutral language and replace the current select man, select men terms and pronouns throughout the charter?
This generated an amazing amount of public opinion. It was really kind of neat to see how many people had strong opinions about this, and the commission listened. And I'd just like to point out that think about the positions that women hold in Bolton. The superintendent of schools is a woman. Our first select person is a woman. The chairperson of the Board of Finance is a woman. I was chair of the Charter Revision Commission. So gender-neutral language reflects who we are in Bolton, how women in this town are viewed as leaders. And we struggled to find appropriate terms. Nothing sounded right. It's very difficult to introduce a new term because we're so used to selectmen, and that it's going to be hard to get used to some of the changes, but I do believe that in a few years, if this passes, in a few years, people will just feel like it's very natural. So the commission is recommending selectmen will be select person and board of selectmen will be select board. And then all of the terms, he, she, in the charter will be changed to they or their.
Yeah, and our vice chair of the Charter Revision Commission was also a woman. Historically, at least the last 50, 60 years, our town clerk, our town clerks, our town treasurer, our tax collectors, half or more of the registrars of voters have been women. We need to allow us to be able to say, hey, we're inclusive to include 51% of the humans on the planet. And we all know that women do just as good of a job as men do. And that's certainly been shown historically through town. Going to Bolton schools here, our English teachers taught us that we works as well as he and she. They works just as well as him and her. Thank God for a good Bolton education, but I think it's important that we move into the future.
Thanks, John. That brings us to question 11. But before we get into question 11, I wanted to just talk a little bit about what happens with a yes vote or a no vote. A yes vote in every question means whatever the question is deciding will become the future for direction of the town. A no vote means that whatever is in the question will not happen. There's no trick questions where all of a sudden your yes vote should have been a no vote. So we've been very careful to maintain that all affirmative yes votes mean whatever's described will be the change. Question 11 has a lot of parts. Some of them are technical cleanup for the additional, for the charter. And I want to bring out that a yes vote to this means every single one of these is accepted. So think about it. The change here from Economic Development Committee from a required to an optional board was a bit controversial.
But we had learned that there was discussion about possibly creating a regional economic development commission, and the membership of the current EDC was dwindling so much that the commission just felt that we should encourage going to that regional group and not trying to work really hard to get people to fill positions where there's not an energy for.
There's only one member on the Economic Development Committee at this point, I believe.
That's correct. And we are still working towards that regional board with neighboring towns, Coventry, Mansfield, and Tolland. And here's the definition of total expenditure amount. Up until now, the charter has referred to different ways of determining what the finance should be, how the determination of expenditures and what required town meeting approval has been. So this changes everything. The question we referred to earlier changes the definition of everything that requires voter approval to total expenditure amount. And that means town proper expenditures, Board of Education expenditures, debt service expense, and capital expenditures for that particular year. So it's a number that you vote on in the referendum to approve the budget. You'll understand what it is. It'll be readily available. And it also will change every year as the amount of total expenditures change. And it could go up or down depending on what happens with total expenditures. Another question here, and I'm not going to cover all of them because some of them are pretty minor. But if you do want any information on one of the questions we don't talk about, please reach out to one of us, or in fact, any member of the Charter Revision Commission. The Fire Commission asked that the term of the fire commissioners be reduced from 5 years to 4 years. And they also requested that one member of the 4-member board, be determined every year. So instead of having the group change over all at once, it'll be on a rotating basis. It changes the method of resolving a tie vote to a coin toss. It currently is special election as the first option, coin toss second. You have any comments on that?
Yeah, we're lucky it's only happened twice in the last 50-some years. Mr. Porcheron was running for the the Zoning Board of Appeals, and he flipped a coin and he won. Is it 2017?
Yes.
That we had a tie on the Board of Selectmen. We flipped a coin, it made the newspaper, it made Channel 30, it was a national event. And I even took pictures of the 3 coins. And Kim Miller won. And
No. Mike Aramita.
Mike Aramita won. And that's how it works. It's simple, it's easy, and if one of the 2 people that tied can have an option to have another election for that one special job, and we'll spend a couple, $3,000 to do that.
Okay. Letter H here adds provisions for posting and recording of materials of certain boards and commission meetings. This is a practice that's taken place during COVID, and it will be now a required posting on a going forward basis. Let's see.
We were going to talk about the plain language summary of the budget. Okay. Yeah,
Go ahead.
so the commission felt that it's important to get out language about, information about the budget when it's come, before voters have to go to the voting booth. And not just to see a copy of the budget, because sometimes that's difficult to understand, but the commission felt that it would be good to have a summary in plain language that's tone neutral too, not for or against, but just very in simple language what the changes are. And so the charter makes that a requirement.
Thanks. It allows, number O allows additions to the Board of Selectmen's agenda. Again, this is something that is currently allowed but not in the charter, so this makes it very clear. And then change the duration of the temporary public building commission. There are currently the public building commission terminates after 18 months. In many cases, that's not enough time to complete a project. So this will allow the temporary building commission to remain in place as long as the project they're supervising is done. And question P is the catch-all, which says, if we missed something due to grammatical, stylistic, or technical changes that are recommended in the final report of the Charter Revision Commission, we can make those changes. So, any summary words you'd like to share?
Please do your homework. Get a copy of the ballot questions. I think they're available in the town hall, and read them through, read them ahead of time, make some decisions. But it's going to be a lot. It's a lot of reading to do, but it's very important. This is the future of the town of Bolton, and so it's really worth putting the time in. I hope you'll do it.
And it's also available at the library and online.
And the senior center.
And the Bolton Senior Center. They all have copies of it. If you can, go on the town's website. We're trying to make it so that things run just a bit easier in town. We're trying to improve things as time goes on. This isn't meant for any little problems today, we're trying to plan for the next 10 years when we can do another charter revision. And I hope you come out on Tuesday, November 2nd, between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. at the Bolton Center School on Notch Road to vote.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Gwen.
Thank you.
A special thank you to your commission for their diligence, their hard work. I think you've accomplished a lot. Voters, I do also urge you to come out on November 2nd to cast your ballot, do your homework, and I want to say a special thank you to the staff at CVC for the
Yes,
support
indeed.
they've given us and helping us make TV, not just watch it. Bye for now.
Thank you.